Spooky, atmospheric music begins, soft at first, then builds slightly. Have you ever walked alone at night, along a quiet, dark path, and heard a voice call your name when no one was there? It's a chilling feeling, isn't it? But for some, that whisper from the darkness is the last thing they ever hear. Tonight, we travel to the misty banks of the Nile, to the heart of rural Egypt, to uncover the terrifying legend of the Naddaha, the woman who calls from the water. Picture this, a small, isolated village, surrounded by vast fields and winding canals. Life here is simple, tied to the rhythm of the land and the flow of the river. Our story begins with Mahmoud, a young farmer, well liked by everyone for his gentle heart and quiet strength. He was a man of the earth, familiar with every sound of the countryside, from the rustling of leaves to the chirping of crickets. But there was one sound he was not prepared for. It was a cold winter night. The moon was a pale sliver in the inky black sky, offering little light. Mahmoud had stayed late, working in his fields, ensuring the precious water from the canal reached his thirsty crops. The air grew sharp with a biting chill, and a deep silence fell over the landscape, the kind of silence that feels heavy, almost watchful. The distant barking of village dogs was the only thing that punctuated the quiet. It was time to go home. To get back to his house, Mahmoud had two choices: the longer, safer road through the village, or the shortcut, a lonely, narrow path that ran right alongside the dark, murky canal. Tired and eager to get home, he chose the shortcut, a decision that would seal his fate. As he walked, his footsteps were the only sound, the water beside him a silent, black mirror reflecting the starless sky. And then he heard it. A soft, ethereal whisper, like the wind sighing through the reeds. Mahmoud! He stopped dead in his tracks. His heart hammered against his ribs. He scanned the darkness, his eyes trying to pierce the shadows. Nothing. There was no one there. I must be tired, he thought, shaking his head and trying to dismiss the sound as a trick of the wind. He forced his feet to move, quickening his pace. But the voice came again, closer this time, clearer and undeniably female. Mahmoud! Come here. This time, there was no mistaking it. The voice was coming directly from the canal. A cold dread, colder than the winter air, washed over him. Against his better judgment, a morbid curiosity pulled him towards the water's edge. He peered into the gloom, and that's when he saw her. Standing by the bank, a figure of a woman, her silhouette barely visible against the dark water. Her hair was long and black, flowing down her back like a silken shroud. She wore a simple, pale white dress that seemed to shimmer and sway, even though there was no wind. Her face was turned away, shrouded in shadow, but he could sense she was smiling. It wasn't a warm or friendly smile. It was a strange, unsettling curve of the lips that promised secrets and sent shivers down his spine. Her voice, a hypnotic, chilling whisper, drifted across the water once more. Come. I've been waiting for you. A strange feeling came over Mahmoud. It was as if his own will was no longer his. His legs felt heavy, Yet they began to move on their own, carrying him towards her. A primal instinct, a voice deep inside his soul, screamed at him to run, to turn back, to flee from this phantom by the water. But he was powerless. An invisible, irresistible force was drawing him in, step by agonizing step, pulling him away from the world of the living and into her chilling embrace. With each step, the world he knew, his village, his family, the warm light of his home seemed to fade into a distant memory. The only reality was the woman and the dark water. As he drew closer, her features slowly came into focus. Her face was shockingly pale, almost luminous, and utterly terrifying. Her eyes were voids, dark and bottomless pits that seemed to suck the very light and warmth out of the air. They held an ancient sorrow and a terrifying hunger. He was just a few feet away now, completely under her spell. He reached out his hand, compelled to touch her, to see if she was real. And in that precise moment, as his fingertips were about to brush against her, the serene and beautiful illusion shattered. A blood-curdling scream ripped through the night's silence, a sound not of this world. The woman's face twisted and contorted into a monstrous, grotesque visage. Her beautiful features melted away to reveal something nightmarish, a creature of pure terror born from the muddy depths of the canal. Mahmoud, paralyzed by horror, could only stare as he stumbled forward, lost his footing, and fell with a splash into the cold, black water. And then a silence. The ripples faded, and Mahmoud was gone. The next morning, the village awoke to find Mahmoud missing. A search party was formed. They scoured the fields and the paths, their calls echoing unanswered. Finally, by the canal, they found his belongings, his galabeya, and his shoes, neatly folded on the bank. But of Mahmoud, there was no trace. They dragged the canal for days, but his body was never found. He had vanished, swallowed by the river and the night. From that day forward, the legend of the Naddaha grew stronger, whispered in hushed tones around evening fires. They say she is a spirit, a jinn, who lives in the Nile and its canals. She calls out to men who walk alone at night, luring them with her enchanting voice and deceptive beauty. Those who hear her call have a choice. If you hear your name whispered on the wind, you must never, ever answer. You must not even turn your head. You must cover your ears and run without looking back. Because if you acknowledge her, if you look upon her face, you will fall under her spell, and she will pull you into the water to become one of her drowned victims. Over the years, others have disappeared from that same village, and many more across Egypt. Young men who walked by the water late at night, never to be seen again. Their stories all end the same way: a mysterious voice, an irresistible pull, and an empty spot by the river bank. So, if you ever find yourself walking by a dark river in the dead of night, and you hear a beautiful voice calling your name, remember Mahmoud. Remember the whispers of the villagers. Don't be curious. Don't look back. Just run. Because it might be the Naddaha, and she's been waiting for you. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey into one of Egypt's most bone-chilling legends. If you enjoyed this story, please hit that like button. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss our next dive into the world of folklore and mystery. Stay safe and always be wary of the voices you hear in the dark.